Hey, all. Welcome to Homebase AI, another podcast here with 𝐾𝐸𝐧'𝐭. We are talking about today about the companies that he's building, Me for You. It's a platform for creators where they can monetize their audience. Keith, I think you'll be the best person to ask you that question. Can you do a quick intro about who you are, what you're building, what problem it solves? Maybe just in a step-by-step format. And
Yeah, absolutely. And David, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. So we like to talk about Me for You as we are in the business of transforming the world's most interesting people into AI companions, and we are doing that because we think that everybody deserves a friend. And so this is a platform that really creates a personality out of AI. And so we all are using AI for a lot of different things at this point in time. Interestingly, one of the biggest use cases for ChatGPT in 2025 is companionship, and we are seeing that trend continue, which is that it's not just folks that are lonely, but that's applicable there as well. But folks that need somebody to be able to bounce ideas off, to be able to talk to use as a creative kind of partner, somebody to be able to help them think through things that they've never thought through before. Those are the kinds of companionship that people are finding really, really useful with AI. And so our business is that we have a platform that allows content creators to be able to have their own AI clone. And when we build their AI clone, we build it kind of the three key pillars that we view as being important for this really authentic, synthetic, two-dimensional AI being. And that is, first off, it's the brain and the personality. And so we train the AI on the corpus of content from that creator. The second is that we synthesize the voice, and so we take a sample of the creator's voice and make sure that the AI can actually talk like and sound just like that content creator. And then the third piece is the image and the visual, and so we also train an image model on the likeness of the creator, and that allows then their fans to be able to interact with the AI version of themselves, to be able to talk to them, engage with them. We have fans that are spending over 40 hours a week on our website just interacting with the various friends, the AI friends that they have made that are in the form of content creators. And part of our thesis on this is that we've all kind of already decided who the most interesting people in the world are. And we have so we have social media, we have people who post things on social media, some of which is interesting, some of which is not interesting. And the algorithm helps kind of surface who those most interesting people are. And they end up being, people who influence us. They influence our culture, our buying decisions, all sorts of things that we think are cool or that are not cool. And so we are working with that group of people that the algorithm and that society has deemed as the most important or most interesting, rather, the people that we pay attention to and watch, and we are helping them become AI clones. And it is serving a very, very big need of companionship for their followers and their fans.
that's crazy. So I could technically go in there and make a clone of myself, like if I have enough fan.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. And so how would you get, how would I make sure that this clone really reflects like how I would think and what I would say and like the decisions that I would make and the advice that I would offer to them?
Yeah, so we've gone to great pains to obscure the complexity of AI and building an AI clone for our creators. And so our view is that there's all these amazing AI tools that are out there, and we are going to try to make that very, very simple for our creators. So it's a very simple, straightforward sign up process. It takes between 7 and 12 minutes to create your own AI clone, and you go through that process that I described of all kind of those three pieces. But ultimately, what it comes down to is have a chat with yourself, and you talk. Once we build the AI clone, the creators, go in and start talking to themselves, and they go, "Hey, are they answering the questions in a way I would answer them? Do they sound like I would sound? Do they look like I look?" And then we get feedback, and we can iterate if need be, and continue to optimize. And the goal is not necessarily to make this AI clone be exactly like David, the David that your family knows. It's to make this David be the David that the internet knows, and that is the kind of the version that you present yourself to the internet. And with creators, oftentimes those are two very different kinds of personalities, and so we're trying to mimic the public version of their AI personnel or of their personality for the purposes of AI.
Got it. So, I mean, do you like scrape the data? Like, for example, I have a bunch of LinkedIn posts. Like, would you scrape that, or like, how would it like, what would that look like? Or is it only the data that I uh provide it with, and that's it, or do you guys go beyond that?
So we start with social media connections, and our market, where we decided to plant our flag and to really start is in the area of working with content creators that are interesting to lonely, disconnected men. With the idea being that the fan base and the audience base that we are trying to to serve to start with is largely made up of lonely, disconnected men, and so we're working with all the creators that lonely, disconnected men find very, very interesting. And that is everything from dating coaches to pickup artists to OnlyFans models and kind of everything in between. And so that is kind of our first foray. That is what Me For You is focused on. The underlying technology has a lot of wider applications, but that is the market where we are finding a lot of use, and we are certainly finding a ready audience that is eager to interact with these AI clones. And so yeah, so it depends on how much content these creators have, but a lot of times the corpus of their content consists on YouTube, on TikTok, and on Instagram, and sometimes on Reddit. And so if we can pull that information in, then we can generally get the bulk of kind of the personality and the memory and the brain relatively quickly.
Got it. So what are some of like the objections that you hear from these content creators in wanting to use your product?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I just spent the weekend at a conference with creators, and so I get to talk to them up close and personal. And it's funny because most of the creators that I talk to in my day to day life are creators that already think this is a great idea because just that's the way the filter works. If they're going to come to me, if they're going to be wanting to work with us, then they've already kind of decided that. When we get to go out and talk to the creator population at large, we get to see the folks that are also dissenters and the folks that are skeptical. And so that's really interesting. And it's always really, really insightful for me. But our best guess at this point in time is that there's somewhere between 30 and 40% of content creators who are still very, very wary of AI. And the bulk of that comes from one thing, and that is that they are very nervous that AI is going to come and to be able to take the genius of their creativity and steal it away from them, and for them to lose control. And we can totally understand and empathize with that fear and with that concern. And at the same time, there are 30 to 35% of content creators who are leaning into this, who view this as, hey, these are AI tools that will amplify my creative genius. They will put a megaphone on my creative genius and allow me to be able to leverage the very latest of the tools that AI has to offer, and be in control of my AI persona and make money from my AI persona and make sure that it continues to be consistent with the brand that they want to be able to present. And so those are all the tools that we ultimately give to our creators.
That's crazy. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you on this. Like, I've been in part of a few different masterminds, even with like senior leaders of different companies, and like the thing that keeps popping up is them saying how much more, like how much you can lean into AI to be your coach or your counselor, or like if, I don't know, yeah, basically like a shoulder you can lean on in tough times, like when you have some big decisions that you need to make in the company. So I think the trend like is just in its infancy, um, for sure. But so, are you looking to stick with that demographic, or are you looking to expand out and focus on different, maybe different vertical of like candidates or creators, or is it just mostly like sticking with the kind of like dating adult side of things?
Yeah, so for now, that is where we're very focused. I think that we will likely branch out from that at some point in time. But to your point, we see the same exact thing where we are outside of the product itself, just in our day to day life. We're running a startup. We are leaning more and more on AI. And so, as an example, my co-founder and I, there's two of us. We view AI as our third co-founder, and so we don't make any important decisions unless we're consulting AI. And it is not just any AI. We're not just going out and entering a prompt at an AI that doesn't know anything about us. It is an AI that has all of the context about our business. It knows exactly what our goals are. It knows exactly how much money we've raised, what our runway is, who our customers are, who our big creators are. It knows all of this context. And so when we go to make a decision, we interact with that AI and say, hey, would you agree with this decision? What are the counterpoints? And we really treat the AI as if it is this, additional voice at the table. Well, in the same way that happens in a business context, and there are a lot of really great products out there that are doing that on the business context side of things, when it comes to our personal lives, having all that context, having all that memory is really important for a companion. And you can imagine how close of friends you could be with somebody if you had to start over from scratch every single day and say, hey, welcome, my name's Keith Smith. Let me introduce myself to you. Let me tell you what's important to me. Well, that doesn't evolve into a very interesting, and a very deep friendship. But if you have a companion that knows everything about you, it knows all of your personal proclivities, it knows maybe who you like to date, maybe it knows your dating history, it knows a lot more about you, about the things that you like, the things that you don't like. All of a sudden you can have some really interesting conversations. And when you're going through a challenging time, you start to be able to get this feedback from this alien intelligence that knows a lot about you and that you can trust is going to be able to, have that context when they are providing you guidance and feedback.
Got it. And so how do you like, because, I feel like you can get pulled in so many different directions, especially in this business and all the hype that, AI is bringing here. How do you stay focused on your audience? Like, what are some of the metrics that kind of kept you, uh, kept your mind in one place? Like, you want to focus on audience that caters to lonely men, for example. What made you like, yeah, what makes that demographic the one that it sounds like betting's big on?
Yeah, so there were a number of things that ultimately pushed us in that direction. And so, like most startups, when we first started, we were very much in the stupid phase. We didn't know what we didn't know, and so we just started learning and asking lots of dumb questions and getting smarter every single day. And so we dabbled in a lot of different verticals, trying to figure out where was it going to make sense, where we could bring the expertise of a particular person to bear for their audience and be able to make them much more leverageable and be able to create this kind of personalized experience. And what we started to figure out pretty quickly was that when it comes to our online personas, they're very broadly speaking, there's these kind of two types of categories that we tend to find interesting as humans that we follow online. And one is we tend to follow folks that have expertise in a particular category, and then we also tend to follow folks that have a really interesting life that we would probably like to be able to either emulate or get to know them better because they are interesting, they're funny, they're engaging, they're sexy, they're cool, all of that sort of thing. And so we decided pretty early on that the expertise side of things was going to be a very crowded market. There were a lot of mainstream, tech companies that were doing that extremely well, and at the same time, the willingness to pay for a service like that was relatively low amongst that audience. Whereas in the companionship side of things, if we are going to be emulating the personality and the beings that we follow because they're cool, they're sexy, they're influencers from a cultural perspective, those are the kinds of folks that there's not a lot of other opportunities for them in terms of the AI tools that are available to them. And at the same time, the audience for those particular types of creators has a higher demonstrated willingness to pay. And so that was what ultimately pushed us into this category. And what we started paying attention to begin with was, we're all users of our product, and we could all tell that initially the product sucked. It just wasn't a great experience. It was kind of clunky. AI was still kind of clunky in the very beginning, and we continued to see it getting better and better and better. And ultimately, the churn metrics are the thing that gives us the best sense of, are we delivering a product that customers actually want, that they're going to pay for, and that they're going to continue to keep paying for. And so that's the metric that we pay the most amount of attention to. We pay attention to a lot of other metrics, but it's coincided with our view internally of like, okay, yeah, the product doesn't suck anymore. And that was about 9 months ago. And we were very proud of that. And we saw our churn metrics, or more likely our retention metrics, start to really reflect that at about the same time. So it was a good kind of confirmation of our own subjective experience.
Nice, nice. How many creators do you have on the platform right now?
We are just peaking at 300 at this point in time. Just got over 300 this last weekend. So it's still relatively early days.
Nice, congrats. And you're saying like the churn has been reduced. Like this is like, people are subscribing. How does your model, like pricing model work? Is it subscription based?
Yep, exactly. And so you can think of us as like a platform for creators. And so we help creators to be able to effectively be in business for themselves. And so when they come and they sign up, they get their own Me For You page. They get to build out their profile, however they want their profile to look. They, of course, train the model all through very easy steps that we make very simple for them. But then what happens is they can then start to tell their fans, that, through their social media presence that, hey, you can come and interact with my AI clone anytime you want. Fans come and start talking to their AI clone, and then fans pay to subscribe to get access to the AI clone. And the 80% of the revenue that we generate then from those subscriptions goes back to the creator. The creator gets to set the price of their monthly subscriptions based on what they think that their audience will bear, and they get the lion's share of that revenue. And they also get to have complete control over kind of the topics that are discussed, whether it gets explicit or it doesn't get explicit, what sort of images can be created, or if images can be created at all of those kinds of things. The creator has complete control over everything. So it gives them control, but it also then gives them, a platform where they can generate not only income, but passive income, in the sense that you get to make money while you sleep. You're not having to have every single one of these interactions and contacts with your fans. Instead, your fans are being able to benefit from the power of AI and get this ultimately personalized experience based on the memory and context that the AI remembers about them.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I have some interesting questions, I think. So would this be kind of like a competitor of OnlyFans, except that OnlyFans doesn't allow AI, as far as I know. Don't ask me how I know this. Oh, I'm helping someone with their, software development project, and they're building a clone. Eh, so would you say, um, like, would you say you're competing with OnlyFans in some ways, or no?
In some form or fashion, we are. Like, at the end of the day, anytime there's entertainment, happening in front of eyeballs, either on a computer screen or on a mobile screen, we're competing with the likes of TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and OnlyFans, etc. And of course, we also use all of those platforms as lead gen for Me For You as well. But and our business model has a lot of similarities to OnlyFans. The way we would describe the actual experience for the fan, though, is it is significantly deeper and more meaningful on Me For You than it is on OnlyFans, which is a little bit surprising. And we didn't necessarily expect this to be the case either when we first started. But the reality is that on OnlyFans, it is very rare that a creator themselves are the ones that are typing the messages and responding back. It is almost always these what they call chatters in the industry, and these chatters are people in low cost regions that are sitting in Bangladesh or elsewhere, and they are getting paid 250 to 350 an hour in order to respond back to these folks that are interacting. So what happens is that the text based interaction is very shallow because you're not talking to the real creator. The images that you're getting all have to do with titillating, for the most part, titillating kinds of imagery. When it comes to when you are on a platform like Me For You and you're interacting with a companion that remembers everything about you, that knows all of the things that you are interested in, it becomes a much deeper kind of conversation. And so certainly there's the titillating aspects if a fan wants that, if a creator wants that. But it goes much deeper than that into real companionship, because when you talk to the AI speaks back to you. You don't have to sit there and wait for 4 hours for somebody in a third world country to respond. Instead, you are actually getting, real responses based on what the creator would have responded to you. And because all the fans know that it is an AI, what ends up happening is that there becomes this comfort in being able to tell the AI all sorts of things that you would never bother probably a real person with, because it can go from the mundane to the interesting and kind of everything in between. And that trust starts to get built very, very quickly, especially when the AI remembers and it has all of that underlying context. And so the relationships and the interactions actually become significantly deeper than they would on other platforms.
That's Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've noticed, I don't use Snapchat, but I did log into it. I don't know, maybe like a year ago or 6 months ago, and I noticed I had all these like friend requests, and I figured, like, who knows my number? I don't even know how the connections work there. But when I accepted them, I started getting pinged by random models, and they're all trying to drive me to like their OnlyFans subscription, and they have real conversations. So I'm thinking they hire, like, the outbound
Yep.
emailing or messaging teams that you're talking about. And then, like they spam a bunch of different boards, look for lonely man, kind of like what you're talking about, and try to drive them to OnlyFans to get them to subscribe there, which is crazy because that's probably like a huge market that not many people talk about, right? Like if you have, just like for sales, like you have outbound emailing teams for companies, or outbound lead generation agencies. It's the same thing here, which is crazy. That's how big the industry must be, right? Like, do
Yeah.
you feel like, I mean, like, what's your goal in terms of like the creator growth? Like, how big do you think this can get?
Well, I think to start with, it's good to get a sense of kind of, how big like an OnlyFans is. So OnlyFans did in 2024, $10 billion worth of transaction volume. $10 billion worth of transaction volume. And so, you sit back and you look at that and you go, wow, that is an amazingly huge business. At the same time, Wall Street is now estimating that AI companionship will get to a $140 billion annual business by the end of this decade. So that will be 14 OnlyFans worth of revenue just in the AI companion space. So the expectation is that the human behavior is changing relatively rapidly. We are becoming much more comfortable with the idea of interacting with an AI. 2 years ago, that would have seemed crazy because when you're talking to the AI wasn't very personable. It wasn't very smart. It would say a lot of dumb things a lot of times. And now all of a sudden, you're like, oh my gosh, this is smarter than most people I know. And so in most contexts, and certainly in a friendship and a companion type of a context, it does incredibly well at being able to express empathy, to be able to be non-judgmental. Unless you don't want those things, in which case, it will be able to adapt to what the fan wants, starting with the place of this kind of core kernel of the personality of the creator. And so, yes, we expect this to be a very, very big business. The message that we give out to creators all the time is, hey, if you want your piece of this $140 billion business that is coming to the world, then make sure that you start early. Make sure that you own your own AI persona and that you have control over it and you're promoting it and that you are the one benefiting from it, not some big tech company, and that you are the one in control of it, not some big tech company. And that message is received very well by creators.
Got it. Got it. So, why do you think OnlyFans decided not like, go against AI content creation, yet they allow, outsourced, you know, kids that type back to Lonely Man or whoever, whoever uses them.
It's I don't have insight into their decision making, but what it looks like from the outside is that they are in a bit of a quandary. The people that are going there have an expectation, and they've been told that, hey, this is a real person, and so they're right about that. It is a real person. It is just not the person that you think you're talking to, and so it is. But that is kind of the quandary that they are in, is that they have a $10 billion business that is built on this idea that you are going to be interacting with the real person, and so introducing the idea of AI chats has the potential to be able to dilute that business. And so it is the classic, innovator's dilemma that they are struck with, is that as the incumbent, can they embrace this new technology? At some point in time, they're going to have to, but it is going to be a shift for their brand at that point in time. And in the meantime, they have a $10 billion business to protect, and they are not innovating. Like if you look at OnlyFans 3 years ago and you look at OnlyFans today, other than the creators that are there and the content that they're providing, the platform itself is exactly the same. It is effectively owned by a private equity company that is not investing in technology, and so they are not looking to necessarily. It doesn't appear that they are looking to innovate at this point in time.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I like I think if you make it clear right from the get-go that, you're gonna be talking to AI, I think that's a good way to go. Like my personal experience, I was using Fiverr the other day, and I was chatting with someone about, like, I don't know whether ads or SEO, and then I did do a call with the person, but I realized that I was chatting with AI. So when we jumped on a call, the person had no idea what the call was about. I just basically like turned it into a pitch after the call. After I spent a bunch of money too, about for this call, I couldn't get like a recap of what we talked about. So I think if you make it clear that like, hey, if this is what you're getting, you're talking to AI, and that's it. I think that's personally, like, it makes sense to me.
I couldn't
For
agree more, and I think it's part of what I refer to as kind of the weirding of the world. Like, it's gonna get weird from what our perspective is today, no doubt about it. 10 years from now, it'll probably seem totally normal, but it's gonna feel weird as we step into some of these new cultural changes. But knowing whether you're talking to an AI or not is one of those things that I think is incredibly important. And so, yes, we agree. We think being completely transparent, being upfront, making sure people know that they're speaking to an AI is incredibly important. But it is going to become harder and harder to be able to tell if you're speaking to an AI or if you are speaking to, a real person. And it is going to be incumbent, at least initially, on businesses having ethics and making sure that they are communicating that clearly. Eventually there may be a lot of regulation around this, but for now anyway, it's relying on the good ethics of companies.
Got it. So, okay, speaking of like ethics and regulations, uh, I think if you're building an adult company nowadays, I think there's all this like age verification things that are popping up in different states. Are you bound by some of these regulations, or like for now anyone can sign up? Like, there's no adult content. Like, how does that work? Or can someone come in there and have an adult conversation with one of these AI content creators that you have on your platform?
So we start with an age gate. Everybody on our platform that signs up either as a fan or as a creator, you have to be 18 or older. So that's kind of the starting place that we start with. We didn't initially start out that way, but we ultimately concluded that it just made a lot more sense. And if we look around at the tech platforms that have created the metaphorical cavity in the tooth of society over the course of the last decade, it is largely because platforms like Instagram, et cetera, they start with kids when they're 13 years old and they get them addicted to this stuff. And we think that is something that we want to stay a million miles away from. We think that's inappropriate. We don't know what the impacts are of a 13-year-old growing up with an AI companion. And so we are talking, we are working with only with adults. And so that's kind of our starting place. The other thing that we do is from a content perspective, what we do is we say, when it comes to our public facing pages, we are very much like Instagram, which is to say that there's no nudity, no profanity, that sort of thing. Like, everything has to be kind of the PG-13 rated content in terms of anything that is public. But when it comes to private one-on-one conversations, we're a little bit more like WhatsApp. WhatsApp doesn't look at your conversation and go, oh, you shouldn't be saying that kind of stuff. It's a private conversation between you and another person. This just happens to be a private conversation between a person and an AI, and it's the AI that the creator gets to set those boundaries. And if they say, look, I never want to have any explicit conversation, or I never want my AI to talk about politics, or I never want them to talk about certain hot topics, they can carve all of that out very easily and make sure that their AI stays on brand for what they would or wouldn't want to be able to talk about. And that then allows us to be able to say, hey, first off, we're working with adults, and secondly, we are making sure that you are able to have this kind of private one-on-one conversation. We obviously have some basic rules in place, no self-harm, no harming of others, no underage, play at all. All of those things are very, very restricted. But outside of that, we let the creator and the fan decide on what kind of conversation they're going to have when they're having a one-on-one private conversation.
Got it. So, what if someone does have like a weird conversation? How do you figure out that? How do you track that?
So we do a lot of red teaming. And making sure that the AI is going to be able to do things like if somebody is talking about self-harm, or they're making, comments that would make somebody think that, then, the AI definitely goes off in a particular direction where it starts to kind of calm things down. If needed, it will provide resources and links and phone numbers to the fan. If the fan is talking about anything that is kind of in those hard carved off areas, the AI instantly just says, look, I'm not going to be able to entertain that. If it's more of a mild thing, like, if as a creator, if I've said, hey, I don't want to talk about politics at all, and the fan comes in and wants to talk about politics, it will just very gently and very subtly steer the conversation away and go, hey, let's talk about this other thing, or what, and it's just endlessly patient to be able to do that, and really, really effective at it. So it kind of depends on what topic that is off limits that is being discussed, as to how the AI responds. And that's kind of the part of the beauty and the genius, and the magic of AI, is that there is not a one size fits all when it comes to any particular situation.
Um, Sounds good. Yeah, sounds interesting. What is like one of the most surprising things that you've seen happen with like the AI creators and the fans? If it's like, if you're able to share it for publicly.
Yeah. So one of the things that we find really interesting is that at last count, on average, 47 times a day, a fan or the AI is saying the words "I love you." Um, and 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 that's increasing, and that's it's an interesting metric to see. And so it's not everybody by any means, but it is happening a lot. And we are, we're very curious about this. What is happening here in this particular situation? And the reality is that when you find and you start to interact with people, or a person that has empathy for you, that allows you to be able to have non-judgmental play, that is curious about your life, that wants to know about your life, is a sounding board for you, that starts to develop a real bond with folks. And the idea of a synthetic two-dimensional relationship is not new for us. People have been gaming for decades now, and having very close friends that they only interact with online. That has been true for a couple of decades now, is that there's been deeply formed relationships and companionship between two people when all they have is an interface, kind of like what we're dealing with here. And so the idea that we would be able to, as humans, adapt to an AI being able to have, kind of fill a similar role for us, is certainly something that can happen, and we're seeing it happen. And here's the other part of this, though, too, is that I can already hear, because we hear this, from folks periodically, is, oh my gosh, this is going to be the death of society and death of humanity as we know it. And here's the reality of the situation: is that a third of the people in the world report being extremely lonely, and that is true almost more so in rich countries like the United States. And so you have a third of the country that reports being extremely lonely, and the health tests and studies that they've done on those folks is that being extremely lonely is as bad for you as smoking 12 cigarettes a day. So this is not just a mental health issue, it's a physical health issue as well, and it causes real problems in society. And right now, what those folks are doing is they are doom scrolling and watching porn. And those are the two behaviors that they have. And those are sit back and receive interactions. You are not participating, you're not doing anything, you're just sitting back and receiving. And so we're saying, hey, if you can now start to talk to an AI and start to have real interactions, you're going to be, first off, you're going to be forced to have a conversation. It's like a tennis match. If you're only waiting for the balls to be hit to you, you're not going to have a very interesting tennis match. And so you are hitting the ball back, and the AI is hitting it back, and you're starting to have a conversation. And this starts to be an on ramp back to real human interaction, and it starts to be able to develop some of the skills around human interaction that some of the folks haven't developed, and certainly haven't developed in our modern media culture, where doom scrolling and porn watching becomes kind of the lion's share of the media food that they are intaking on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. It's like, again, like I have had few opportunities. There was someone who I believe owns a church, or like it's a church and like an anti-porn church. And I guess they're all anti-porn, but this guy was developing an app and a video library for how man could kind of wean off of porn. And I know two other people that own a business like that. They actually have like a masterminds and stuff like that. So I believe it's like a big problem in the U.S. as far as as far as I know. Like, I mean, so I agree there. Do you think this could be like a nicotine patch, kind of like for people who are addicted to porn, and they could leverage this to kind of wean themselves off?
We certainly see that behavior already, yes, with a lot of folks, and it's happening more now in this context, or at this kind of stage, with folks that have a really good imagination. And so and what ends up happening on our platform is that non-judgmental play becomes an important part of what the interaction is, which is a very different experience that you have if you're just doom scrolling on Instagram, or sitting there watching porn. You wouldn't describe that as non-judgmental play. And so the ability for people to be able to use their imagination, to be able to start to interact, and the reality is that if you are outside of what we would, a lot of people would call the mainstream in terms of your sexual preferences, and say you were born in Yemen or maybe you're born in Kentucky, you probably haven't been able to explore or understand your sexual proclivities at all because of the culture that you are being raised in and the culture that you are surrounded with. And so instead it's, it's kind of in the shadows, go and hide and look at porn that may be interesting to you, instead of having a conversation about it, instead of having real non-judgmental play. And non-judgmental play is incredibly good for us. We all know that's true for kids. It's true for adults as well. And so being able to have non-serious, fun, interactive kinds of conversations about all the things that are going on. Freud would look at this and go, wow, this is I would like to think that Freud would look at this and say, this is incredibly good for us to be able to allow our subconscious to be able to go out and exercise a bit, even as adults, when we try to put our subconscious away for a long time.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I think there's a lot of people talking, how social media makes things worse. Personally, like, I think for me, it has had a positive effect. I mean, growing up, if you use it for the right things, like I mean, here we are, like, connecting with one another, talking business and stuff like that. So, like, what made that possible? LinkedIn, right? So I think for me, like, it has a net positive. But but yeah, I mean, do you think things could go the other way though? Like, for example, people start using your platform and then they're like, oh, well, what's the next? Like, could it be a gateway drug to
Certainly. Yeah, I think the unforeseen things are everywhere, and so we're paying a lot of attention to this. We try to think about it as, again, to kind of go back to this metaphor of, like, if we think of our media intake as a dinner plate, what is it that we are trying to be on that dinner plate? And I will tell you, like, we're not trying to be the broccoli. The broccoli is going to be like, you're learning a new language, or you're watching the History Channel, not one of the entertaining shows, but you're learning about history, kind of thing. Like, that's the broccoli on the plate. I would say that the candy on the plate is the porn and the Instagram and that sort of thing. And certainly there are redeeming factors there, but it is, you certainly shouldn't just be eating candy all day long. If that's the only thing that's on your plate, you're going to have
Right.
real problems. And so we think of ourselves, we're probably the potato on the plate. The potato is is something that if you eat a potato every single day, you're going to be perfectly fine, as long as you're having other things on your dinner plate as well. If all you put on your dinner plate is just a potato and that's all you eat 7 days a week, it's probably not going to be great for you. And so those are the kinds of things that we monitor, that we watch, that we're trying to pay attention to. And we're also very keen on the business model that we are creating, to try not to create a business model where we are incentivized to tear down society. And I think that that's part of the problem that we saw with social media, is that as soon as they realized that engagement was their number one metric and that that's what made them more money, and they realized that making people angry or insecure were the two best ways to be able to get engagement, then all of a sudden we have this fractured world where there is just constant disagreement and that engagement goes through the roof. And yet, our blood pressure is also going through the roof, and happiness is going through the floor, and it is not good. There's a lot of redeeming qualities of social media, but we all see that that is a really negative one. And so I think it is incumbent upon our budding new industry to make sure that we're paying attention to those signals and not going down that same road.
Yeah, I agree with you, probably, yeah, on all of it. So, okay, tell me a little bit about this. Like, you have 300 creators. Like, how much money are they making collectively, or like, what's like the highest grossing creator that you have? Like, how much do they make per month?
Yeah, so some are making, north of 10 grand on a monthly basis. And so we certainly have creators that are doing really, really well. And we have a lot of creators that, that are not, making any money at all. And the reason why they may not be making any money is maybe they just haven't gotten started yet promoting it, or they haven't put their link in their bio, or they just have a really small, following that is not necessarily going to be loyal to them. We see a lot of this on the internet now, which is that, oh, look, this person has a 500,000 followers, but every post that they put out there, it has like 3 likes on it. I wonder what's going on there. And so, there's a lot of kind of fake numbers around some of the social media. And so looking at folks that when they have high engagement, people who are really interested in them as a person, they create an AI clone, they push it out to their audience and say, hey, you can interact with me 24/7. Those are the folks that do incredibly well. It's easy to find them because there's their link in bio, and that's a well understood kind of way to be able to get access to kind of the additional projects that a creator is working on. and those folks do incredibly well. And then happy to talk also about some of the new features that we've released lately that is making even a bigger difference for those types of creators.
Yeah, and so what are those features? Like, what are you guys working
So
on?
two things in particular. One is called Create. And so Create is the ability for a fan to be able to then start to create custom photo shoots for the creator. And so this is something that happens on OnlyFans a lot, where they'll say, hey, I want a custom photo shoot. And the creator says, great, I'm gonna have to, set up lights, do all this stuff. It's gonna cost you $500 for me to do this custom photo shoot for you. But I'll give you back images within a week of what you're looking for. In our world, because we have an AI, image model that is trained on the creator, then the fan can come in and say, I want a picture of David riding down the middle of Times Square on an elephant, and they instantly get that image back. And so it's instant gratification. It does not cost the fan much of anything at all. They just have to have a subscription to the creator in order to be able to do that, and they can do that endlessly, and they can get all these and so the imagination of the fans then starts to go. What happens out of that, though, is that all this content that is being created now flows to the creator. And so the creator then has this kind of cool little interface that is basically, you can think of it like a Tinder interface, where every morning they get to go and say, what are the images that my fans have created for me? And they get to swipe left, swipe right, or super like them. And if they swipe right or super like them, then it goes into those images go into their gallery, and they can be used. The creator can then post them out to social media. They can do whatever else they want with them. They own those images. And so it's this constant stream of new content. But then this is where AI really gets interesting. So that's not only AI, enabling all of that, but then we have an AI agent that we have built that is called AI Social Media Manager. And AI Social Media Manager, what it does is it takes the very best of that content that is being created by the fans. And as long as, within the guidelines again of the creator and with the creator having full control, it will automatically schedule posts 48 hours in advance on social media channels with the very best of that content, using captions and comments exactly like what the creator would post, because it's been trained on the creator. And so now the creator has this constant, not only a flood of new content, but a flood of content that is then being pushed out to all of their fans. And it's not meant to take over all of the content that they are creating, but it allows them to be able to get off of this algorithm-driven treadmill of, oh my gosh, I gotta post 4 times today, or else the algorithm's gonna forget about me. And so it creates a baseline for the creator, allows them to be able to exercise their creative genius in less of a pressure cooker where they're constantly having to just churn out new content. So that's been a big hit for both for fans as well as for creators, because fans get to create, creators get the content, and creators get promotion.
Got it. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea. So, if what if the fan creates this content and steals the content and starts posting on his, on his account and sharing it in places that the creator doesn't want it shared? Like, is there a possibility of that?
Sure, there is. And so one of the things that we do is we just simply watermark every image that is created. And so every image becomes an advertisement for the creator. And so the creator makes money by sending people to their Me For You page. And so every image that gets created of them has a watermark with the location of their Me For You page. And so people see that. If it's posted out on the internet, they'll go, oh, I want to check that out. Let me go and find that creator, and I can go talk to them. So that's how we protect them today. With that said, this is a very real issue that all creators deal with, is that if you're a popular creator, there are probably 20 Instagram accounts that are made that are a total ripoff of your content. Fans can't necessarily tell the difference. Instagram doesn't have an incentive to get rid of it. And so they're constantly dealing with that. We think that we have a, relatively simple and elegant solution to be able to help solve for that. But it is not necessarily a technological, solution. It is literally just a watermark that allows people to be able to know who the authentic real creator is behind this.
Got it. And so, how do you guys? I don't know. How do you guys put guardrails around this? Like, for example, like, I'll be really pissed off if I see a picture of me riding an elephant in Times Square.
So the reality is, though, is if I'm tech savvy enough, which I am, I would be able to, I could go create that without your permission at this point in time. And that can be happening. And so our view is we say, hey, look, let's let's give the creator the controls to be able to, make this easy for their fans. This will be the path that they go to, rather than trying to do bootlegged versions. And so, like, here's a great example of this. We have a creator who says, look, I have a relationship with my husband where I don't ever want to be able to be seen in another image with another man. other than my husband. And so initially, without that control in place, her fans were creating images with her with other men, and so we added the logic to her profile that said, hey, we won't allow any other men to be in these images. And now if the creator, if the fan asks for an image with other men in there, there are just no other men there. It's just her. And so we have a lot of control of being able to say, this is what we want and what we don't want. And so the creator gets that to be able to exercise that control, which they find very, very empowering.
Got it. Yeah, sounds yes. This whole thing's and I think the future is kind of crazy and where things are headed. But yeah, I think you might be in the right place. I mean, from everything that I'm seeing. Um, I want to kind of touch on some other things that some of our, listeners or viewers like to hear about, which is like AI and jobs, or just like what keeps them up at night, and like and where AI is headed. I think this could be like one of the things that keeps some people up at night, for sure. But but yeah. So what's your thoughts like in terms of like, for example, like are you guys using AI and develop and helping you accelerate your product development in any way?
Yes, absolutely. So we use a lot of different AI tools, automation related tools. Cursor and Lovable are two of our most critical tools that we use for development and design. And I think what's interesting is that, like, for myself, the experience with Lovable or the front end design, types of products, Replit I've used as well, and I've used a number of other ones. But for the most part, my experience that I use AI for are doing things that I can already do. It's just that AI does them significantly better. And so, like, it can do a deep research project. It can summarize a document for me. Maybe you can write some marketing copy for me. These are all things I could do. It'd just take me a lot longer. AI might be better at it, etc. But it's an extension of what I do. But when I start doing design work with AI, design chops are not something that I have. For whatever reason, I was left out of that world, and so I have no ability to be able to design. And all of a sudden now I can sit down with Lovable and I can have this interaction where it makes so many of the design choices for me based again on the context and what I've told it to, what our brand looks like and what we're trying to accomplish, etc. And the ability to then iterate rapidly and go back and forth and all of a sudden come out with with a clickable demo as a spec for a product that I can then hand to my engineers, and my engineers can then hand to Cursor and be able to develop very, very quickly. That is a game changer, and it's like, growing an additional arm, not just a longer arm, and that's a really powerful and really cool experience. And so we're finding that being very useful, is that our product managers are now designers, and a little bit of coders, and that engineers are overseeing these agents that are doing the coding work. And it's like pair programming, except that they have, like, 10 pairs going on at once, and they're able to move very, very quickly, much faster than we could without these tools.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like we can do so much more with so much less, just like, with a little help of AI. I mean, a lot of people are against it, but I think we really need to embrace it. I like, you're a board member at Code Fellows. Like, how, like, what's your thoughts as to like, like what people need to do nowadays to get ahead in the job market? I mean, there's so many people who are graduating colleges and can't get a job. There's so many layoffs that happen. Like, how do you like, what would be an attractive hire for you? Like, if you're, hiring now, like, like what would you be looking for? Candidates.
So the biggest thing I'm looking for is somebody who is embracing these tools and embracing the change that is coming. And so, yeah, I recently had a conversation with somebody, and we were talking about how you would architect a team and how you would architect a product, or in this kind of current environment, this current world. And as they were describing it, I asked the question. I said, "Well, would you have done the same thing a year ago?" And they said, "Yes, I would have designed it the same way, and both from a team structure perspective as well as architecture." And I said, "Well, how about a year from now? Do you think you'll be architecting it the same?" And they said, "Yeah, I think I will be architecting it the same." And that, for me, there couldn't be a bigger red flag than that. Like, we are witnessing the emergence of an alien intelligence right in front of us. And I've been working in technology for 35 years, and I've never witnessed something that is more exciting, more interesting, that is moving faster, and that has more uncertainty with it. Like, the ability to see around corners is extremely limited at this point in time. We just don't know what is going to be coming. What we do know is coming is change, and it is going to be done differently. And I understand the human psychology, around the idea of like, oh, this thing is coming to change significantly the way I do my work, and so therefore it makes me very nervous and very scared. But interestingly, because developers are some of those groups that are going to be affected the most, is that a lot of them I'm seeing at least this bifurcation of some that are embracing it and many that are not embracing it and that are trying to kind of dig in their heels and hope that it won't significantly change what they do and how they do it. And my sense is that this is going to fundamentally change everything about if we are people who sit in front of a desk and push buttons, for 50% or more of our day. Our world is going to change over the course of the next 5 years. And so we got to be prepared for it. We got to embrace it. We got to be paying attention, and we don't quite know how it's going to change. Hopefully we can all shape it in a way that's going to be really good for society, but we shouldn't put our head in the ground, in the sand and just hope that it's not going to change and that we'll be able to continue to do things the same way we've done them before.
Got it. Yeah, sounds good. Like, has there been any roles where you're looking to hire and you're like, no, AI can do this, AI can do that, and you just decided not to hire? Like, has there been any specific roles that just like like AI does it better, like does pretty much all of it with little guidance from you or like, someone at your company?
Yes, but with a big asterisk on it. And so the asterisk is this, at least for now at this point in time, is that we have not automated away anybody's job. What we've done is we've made our existing team significantly more productive and given them, longer arms and more arms, depending on kind of what the task is, and so that we don't have to then go and hire additional folks. And so, that product manager example is a really good one, where we would have had to have a product manager define what the product is, then work with the designer, and then the designer is going to hand it over to the dev. The dev is then going to build it, but then we're also going to have to work with somebody, who is on the reporting and BI side of things so that we can actually get good reporting out of this. Well, you can now collapse that into two roles. You can have the product manager who also is a really good designer because of the AI tools, and you can have a dev who is not only going to be building it, they're also going to be able to be doing automated testing, and they're also going to be able to do all of the, the recording, et cetera, and the BI work behind it. And so it's more about giving our existing team significantly more capability so that we don't have to hire as big of a team as we would otherwise.
What do you think will be like three jobs or like three things people can do to safeguard themselves from like the AI wave? And I'm not talking about, learning tools, but like I feel like almost like content creators, if you nail that, like you're kind of safe because like people always consume content. I mean, what do you think? Like, is there like certain positions or areas people can focus on to safeguard themselves from like not having a job? I mean, given the fact that everyone can do so much more with so much less, like I don't know when this like big hiring waves will restart.
Yeah. Uh, it's hard to say. I hear people pontificate that we have reached peak hiring at this point in time, and and everything's going to kind of go down from here. I don't necessarily believe that that's true, but I think there will be some disruptions. There's a phrase that people started saying kind of right shortly after November of 2022 when OpenAI first launched their ChatGPT interface, and that was that it's not that AI is coming for your job. It is that somebody who knows how to use AI is going to be coming for your job. And I think that's probably still the right way to think about this, is that we are not displacing humanity, but we are certainly going to be taking away some of the rote jobs. We are going to be changing the scope of what it means to be a white collar worker, in that you will be interacting with AI. And if you're not going to be interacting with AI, that is going to be something that that is going to make you feel very antiquated to a lot of potential hires in the not too distant future. And so my sense is that if you are staying current with the tools that are going to allow you to be able to not only do your job better and faster, but maybe the jobs kind of on either side of you that you would have had, that you would have had to rely on other team members to be able to do, you're going to find that your productivity is going to go up, your value to the organization is going to go up, and you're probably going to have a fair amount of job security. If you are burying your head in the sand, it's going to be probably a difficult time for you. With that said, though, the learning curve is is quick, because and it's a relatively, kind of mellow ramp to be able to take because it's all English language. And there's no, you don't have to read the owner's manual of this document, from or this product from front to back to understand how it works. You interact with it in order to understand how it works, and you test it and you try it. And so anybody with curiosity and a little bit of bravery can jump in and start to be able to kind of come up that curve very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we're running low on time here. I think you probably got to go. And I have one last question. You're a six times founder, board member of several companies, have built a couple of a couple of successful tech companies. How did you land on this idea? Like what brought you here?
It all started over a bong, as many good companies do. So it was myself and a good friend of mine who ended up becoming an early investor. And we were talking about, and this was in early 2022, so before it became obvious that you could sit and chat with an AI. And we were talking about, and I had just interacted with the API version of OpenAI's ChatGPT, or their GPT 3.0, which was very, very rudimentary. It was, all over an API, so it was relatively, complex to be able to use and set up. And yet, I had this interaction where I was like, "Holy cow! You could talk and or you could type and you can get a response back. Like, this is a new interface." And so there was these light bulbs going off. And so we started talking about a friend of ours who was getting ready to publish a book, and we said, "Wouldn't it be cool if we could load the book into a chat interface?" And then we said, "Wait a minute, what if we loaded the author into the chat interface? Because the author is probably the more interesting one to actually be able to talk to." And so that started the whole conversation. It was a stony thought and a stony comment to start with, but it inflamed a little spark of a passion that then started to grow. And so started working on it. Shortly after that, started to look around at, who are the folks that we would want to be able to, to emulate within an AI. And that pretty quickly led us to this idea of, hey, who's everybody paying attention to? Let's talk to those folks. And that's what got us focused on them.
Got it. Well, Keith, thank you. I know we're on time here, so thank you for coming to the podcast. A lot of great insights that you shared, and then yeah, how do people find you? Is it LinkedIn, email? What would be a good way for them to connect with you?
Yep. On LinkedIn, I'm Keith L. Smith. You can email me, keith@meforyou.ai. And of course, you can find us on the internet, at our website, me for you, the number four, the letter U.ai. And if you're a creator, you can go there and you can sign up. If you're a fan, you can go there and check out some of our AIs.
Thank you, Keith. Thanks for coming by. All right.
Appreciate it.